Hello, dear viewers. Support me by subscribing to my channel and share my video if you like it. And also, make sure you comment your thought. Now let's start the video. After taking complete control of Pike and its citizens, avoiding as much havoc and chaos as possible, I decided to send one raven to each house in the Iron Islands with a single message. Come to Pike, and kneel to your new lord, for I have been chosen by the drowned god himself to change the old ways. Come and see how I can't be drowned and confirm by claims. I also sent a raven to my house and Lord Stark, informing them about my victory. Dear Aunt, I sent this message to inform you. I have won. I have taken control over Pike, and as you read this, I'm taking control of the Iron Islands as a whole. There will be no more raiding, no more iron price. For now, the bears rule over the Krakens with love. Lord Mormont, Lord and Lady Stark, I happily inform you that the Iron Islands are mine. I have taken control over Pike, and as you read, the Lords of the Iron Islands are coming to pledge their loyalty and banners to me. Once this all over, I will go to Winterfell and pick up Sansa. I will ensure there is no more raiding or anything of the sort. I will eliminate the old ways the Ironborn believe in. May our families be united through blood, love, and honor. Lord Mormont, I knew I was playing dirty by using his honor to keep our betrothal, but considering they are the only house I mildly trust, and I didn't want Sansa to go over all the shit she went in the series, I had to do it. No, it was time to wait. I was sure the lords in the Iron Islands would come with their army to take me down, but that was part of the plan. I would prove to them that their so-called god chose me. How? By having a kraken raise me above the sea. This would make them kneel in admiration or shit their pants, one of the two. You won. Just let me leave and I won't bother you ever again, Asha said weakly. I did say I was going to let you live, but only long enough for you to understand how fucked you are. I smiled as I cut her chains, take a boat, and leave. This was my last act. I would take everything from her. The last thing a human loses hope. I led her to the coast where she took a boat and sailed. For a moment she thought she had escaped. For a moment she felt relieved. For a moment she felt hope. That was until a kraken pulled her deep into the sea, eating her. I have stolen everything from you, your house, your dignity, your hope. I chuckled as I walked back to the castle. 1 month later, it took 1 month for all the Iron Lords to come, their ships and armies approaching, threatening to end my life. Everything was going as planned. I would use their fate to my advantage. I was in the sea, on a ship alone, waiting to meet them alone, with my krakens close by. Just when they were close enough, just when I was sure they all could see me, I jumped into the water as the kraken destroyed my ship. In a dramatic setting, the Ironborn started to panic. I smiled as I waited underwater, and just when I was sure they felt how fucked they were, I ordered the kraken to rise me above the water and their ships gently as I stood on one of his tentacles. It was time for the religious scam of the century. I am the chosen one. The drowned god chose me to lead the Ironborn. Who here doubts of this? I shouted as the Ironborn stared at me in disbelief. 1 month later, the coronation to the Salt Throne was not what I saw on TV or the books. Apparently, they skipped various considering the so-called drowning god himself chose me. It took a while to convince them their old ways were done for. I was close many times just to kill them, be over with this, but I decided to be more rational. After a while, I made them understand that with my guidance we could be rich without stealing, without raiding. The new rules of the Iron Island were clear. They were basically the antithesis of their old ways. Let me make one thing clear, my lords. If any of you break my rules, I will kill your family, friends, and anyone serving under you. Don't think you can hide things from me. I will know, and I will make you pay. Is that clear? I asked every lord in the room with a cold tone. Aye, the lords nodded, some in fear. Other in admiration, because to some I was some kind of deity now, but mostly fear. Tywin Lannister POV. Like I expected, the young lord won, and was now or on his way to become the new High Lord of the Iron Islands. Tyrion would only ruin this. I needed to make him our ally myself. Set a carriage, I am to leave to the north in a fortnight. I ordered a servant. Cersei POV. The young lord of House Mormont had won the Salt Throne to protect his future wife. Men are pathetic. Anything with tits will drive them to war. He will by now be a High Lord, Jaime smiled, pouring me a cup of wine. Of thieves and repairs. What an accomplishment. I smiled, kissing my brother as he stripped me. Econ Greyjoy, I had lost it all. My family, my birthright, everything. I lost everything to that bastard. He took what was mine. He sat in my throne. He will pay for this. I will kill him. In the end, I had to stay another month in the Iron Islands before leaving to Winterfell. I had to ensure all the Iron Islands started fishing and collecting pears as I commissioned alcohol factories to the islands. After everything was ready, with the factories being designed and the Ironborn fishing, I took off with some of my men to Winterfell. I left the majority of my men behind to ensure they fixed some stuff in the castle. As I sailed, I couldn't help but wonder if I should take Pike as my main seat or keep it on Bear Island. "We'll be in Winterfell in a fortnight, my lord," one of the Ironborn said as we took off. "Perfect," I nodded as I went to my cabin to sleep. Something I haven't done properly in a while. Catelyn Stark POV. Ned refused to break the betrothal. Why couldn't he see what I saw? Ranard Mormont was reckless and didn't think things through. He might have won the war against the Iron Islands, but what if he starts another war, brings our end? "Ned, I beg you, please. Consider this," I pleaded. "Cat, I know what you feel, but I gave my word." He did what he did to protect Sansa, and I think Sansa loves him. "I can't break her heart," Ned said, standing his ground. "Theon is the rightful heir of the Iron Islands. He won't stand by and let him take it," I said as I took my leave. "He can't take anything without men," Ned muttered as he sighed. Sansa Stark POV. Ronard had won. It's been months since I last saw him, and I can't help but feel happy he won. That he is safe, that he is coming back to me. Maybe I am in love. I don't know. But the thought of him dying was painful. I prayed to the gods he would survive. I prayed for his victory. I miss our dates, the way he laughs, how carefree he is, how charming his smile is. I miss kissing him. I simply miss him. 2 weeks later, Renard Mormont POV. I was finally seeing the gates of Winterfell from afar. 2 weeks of sea and months of fight and war were really taxing, but I had won, and that's all that mattered. I was now the High Lord of the Iron Islands and the Bear Island that was loyal to House Stark. Though I knew many lords in the north would fear this new political power I had acquired and would want to marry me to the north to ensure my loyalty, if Lord Stark broke my betrothal, it would be a political suicide. I was the biggest taxable income in the north, and now I was a military threat. But even if he didn't care about that, his honor would bound him to keep my betrothal, because I had kept my word. I had made Sansa as happy as I could, and I had protected her. "We are here, my lord," one of my newly acquired men said, snapping me out of my reverie. Inside, I was greeted by Lord Stark and his children once again. Sansa, this time, was smiling at me as if eager to run out of her family formation and hug me. That was new. "Lord Stark," I greeted, but unlike last time I was here, I didn't bow to him. "Lord Mormont," Lord Stark offered me a handshake. "My lady," I approached Sansa, kissing her hand. "My lord, I prayed to the gods you would come back to me," Sansa said with a sweet smile, raising an army of red flags. Perhaps it was a bad idea to make everyone believe I started the war for her. I didn't expect her to fall for me this fast. "Then your prayers have been answered," I smiled back, putting a mental note to deal with this later. "Lady Stark," I greeted, "and if eyes could kill, she would have my head on a spear." "Lord Mormont," Catelyn Stark practically hissed. I eyed her carefully for a minute, wondering what the hell was her problem, but I stopped my quest for an answer when I realized I don't care. "Rob, good to see you," I smiled, noticing he had conflicting feelings about me. For one, he was happy, and at the same time mad I took what was supposed to belong to his friend Theon. "I'm glad you came back," Rob said with a serious look. "May we speak in private, Lord Mormont?" Lord Stark requested. "As you wish," I nodded, following him to his solar. Inside of his solar, Lord Stark sighed as he served 2 cups of rum and sighed. "Do you have any idea how many problems you caused?" Ned Stark, rubbing his temples. "I do, but I assure you, the list of problems I took care of is infinitely bigger than the one I generated." I nodded. "My wife wants to break the betrothal," Ned Stark admitted. "I got that vibe when she stabbed me with her eyes. Quite a dangerous glare she has." I chuckled. To my surprise, this made Ned Stark laugh. "Aye, she can do that." I did what had to be done. "They were a disease spreading and destroying everything in their way," I said with a cold tone. "I had taken control over the disease, and I will cure it. No more old way." Ned Stark eyed me curiously before he sighed. "Perhaps it was for the best." "It was," I nodded. "Without the Ironborn doing what they used to do, I would ensure a safer North as a whole, and I would also erase a threat in the map." Beyond Greyjoy POV. "The man that destroyed my life was here. The man that took everything from me was here. This was my chance. He would die. He would pay the iron price. I would make sure of it. I would avenge my father and sister, and all my fallen brothers. I would claim his head and the salt throne as it was my right. Theon, think this through, Robb said with a worried look. He will die by my sword, Robb, one way or another, but he will die today, I growled as I put on my armor and got ready to challenge the bastard to a duel. Unbeknownst to them, a raven was carefully listening to their conversation and flew to warn his master. Caw, 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 you bitches. It seemed that for now my betrothal was safe, but now I had to deal with a girl in love. I wasn't so sure how to deal with the conundrum. While she looked like a woman, she was a girl in what mattered for me. But I suppose everything ended the way it was meant to be. Jon, how have you been? I inquired. Right now, Jon was working on the stables, cleaning the horses and brushing their manes. I've been good, Lord Mormont, Jon smiled, trying to be polite for him. I was a lord, and he was a bastard. Social stigmas in this world are quite troublesome. Just call me Ronard or Ron, I offered, cutting him off when I saw he was about to refuse. Consider that my one lordly order for you, shall we? I suppose, Jon smiled. Where are you, bastard? Theon Greyjoy shouted, his tone full of anger and hate. That much I could tell. I suppose that's for me. I'll leave you to your work. And by the way, should you ever need employment, be sure to reach me out. I smiled as I started to walk out of the stable. It seemed Theon had exploded earlier than I anticipated. Don't hide, Dan shouted, and many people started to gather close to him to see the show he was putting. I'm gonna take a wild guess and say you are looking for me. I chuckled, walking towards him. I will kill you, Theon growled with a sword in hand. Or disappoint me. Go ahead. Flip that coin, I taunted him. Theon rushed towards me, sword in hand, and started to hack his blade wildly as I dodged his attacks with my hands on my back, purposely mocking him. Stop running, Theon growled, angry at not being able to hit me. Stand and fight like a man. That's not how fighting works. You attack. I dodged simple. I laughed as I dodged another incoming attack, ducking under his swing. Hey! Theon started to shout, losing all coordination, swinging his blade like a child throwing a tantrum. You are more likely to hit yourself than me if you keep going like that, I smirked at him, which made him shout even louder. Theon, stop this madness, Lord Stark arrived, shouting angrily. Don't worry, Lord Stark. It's not like he can do much. Just let the toddler throw his tantrum, and then after he tires himself out, he can take a nap to chill things out. I turned to full attention to Lord Stark as I continued to dodge Theon's assault. You think you have won everything, don't you? Theon said, panting. You may have won my lands, this battle, and everything else, but I have won something you haven't. And what is that? A pity contest, I chuckled, but mildly interested to see where he was going with this. Sansa's cunt, Theon smirked, and gasps could be heard in the crowd. While you took my lands, I made her a... I didn't know what happened next, but something snapped inside of me. Was it anger? Yes. Was it for what he said? Not really, I knew he was lying, but anger blinded my mind, and in the split of a second, I was in front of Theon, swinging at him with my bare fist, hitting him in the jaw with a powerful punch. I could feel its jaw shatter under my fist as tooths flew out of it. Not letting the Keon recover, I grabbed him by his right arm, throwing him into the air. Then I jumped up, delivering a powerful kick to his back, and feeling his spine shatter into 1,000 pieces. Theon slammed into the ground with a heavy thud, screaming in pure pain. But it wasn't enough, I wanted more. I dashed towards the screaming bastard and punched in the face, feeling his nose shatter. I punched him again, tearing off part of his cheek. I continued to punch, with each hit being even harder than the last one, eventually making one of his eyes burst. Theon tried with all his might to cover up his face with his arms, but with a pair of powerful blows, I broke his arms, bending them beyond recognition. With nothing stopping me now, I punched him again and again and again, shattering what was left of his jaw, destroying the remaining teeth he had, crushing and deforming his lips. Theon was barely recognizable at this point, no longer looking human-like, but I don't care. I want him to suffer more, so I continue punching, tearing pieces of its flesh off with each punch. That was until I feel someone holding my fist softly. That's enough. Please, he lied. Sansa said, holding my blood-covered fist with concern in her eyes, with her delicate hands covered in blood I had. I was sorry you had to see that. I didn't love her, so why did I react so violently when he used such an obvious taunt? Why I felt the need to torture him so much? I could have ended this in a single attack if death was my goal. I know it's your right to kill him, but please let me punish him. He not only insulted your honor, but ours. Lord Stark requested as I stood up. Do as you please, but if I ever see him again, I will kill him. I sighed as I turned to the deformed Theon on the ground. If I didn't do it already, you won't see him again, Lord Stark said grimly. The Maester informed Theon will most likely die, and if he by miracle survived would be a quadriplegic blind cripple. Apparently the damage I had delivered was beyond any modern medicine to repair. I was holding back mostly because I wanted him to suffer, so I held back. I wanted to see his life fade as I punched him. Anger during that fight you let control, powerful inside of you. The dark side of the corn I feel, a raven said as he walked towards me. Great, just what I needed, a raven Yoda. Go away before Disney sues me, I chuckled. Come back, I will, for help I bring, the raven said as he flew away. But Raven Yoda was right. I let something so obviously fake fire up my emotions, and the worst part was, I was not even in love with Sansa. Yes, it would have angered me if she slept with another while I was fighting, but not to the point of going full batshit crazy. Knock knock. It's me, Sansa. Can I come in? I heard Sansa request through the door. Sure, come in, I sighed. Sansa entered the room with a picnic kit on her hands and a soft smile. You still owe me a date. How about we have an inside picnic? Sansa inquired, smiling, as if she didn't see me beat to a pulp, someone she had known longer than me. Fine, that sounds lovely, actually. I nodded as I sat on the floor of my room, seeing Sansa set up the picnic. Extra cheese on your sandwich, right? Sansa inquired with a smile. Yeah, go easy on the tomatoes, I nodded. All right, here you go. Sansa gave me my double cheese meat sub, as she turned to make hers. So, how you've been? I asked, taking a bite of my sub. I've been great. Well, now that you are here, being apart made me realize that. Sansa flushed an acute pink tone as she stared at me. Yet I love you. That might be a bit of a stretch, right? I mean, I know I'm charming, but... I coughed. You are everything I have ever dreamt in man. I can only hope I am everything you want in a woman, Sansa said, without hesitation. I sighed, while I would have wanted her to fall for me on a later date. This was an inescapable event that would come one day. I wanted her to love me so she would be safe from all the shit she went through in the original timeline. But I wasn't mentally ready to speak with an 11, almost 12-year-old girl above love, so time to change the subject. Did Arya find out about your new hobbies? I chuckled. She did. I never saw her more happy and friendly with me, and now uses me as an excuse to learn. Mother was furious, saying a lady does not partake in such things. Sansa laughed. I imagine as much, and what did you tell her? I chuckled. Whatever a lady partakes in, be it cooking or sword fighting, it's ladylike, Sansa said, laughing even harder. Oh, no wonder she hates me so much. Ha. If I knew you were going to tell her that I would have won the war faster, just to see her face, I laughed. It was all good until she sent me to my room and punished me, Sansa pouted. I'll say it was worth it, I laughed. Rosia seems to agree with you. She says that we are a new breed of ladies, the cool ladies, Sansa giggled. Oh God, haha, your sister is adorable, I laughed, choking a bit on my sub. She can be sometimes, Sansa agreed with me. What did your father say, though? I inquired, cleaning my tears. He didn't say much. He found it amusing, but let Mother punish us nonetheless, Sansa answered. We continued talking for hours as we ate and drank juices, of course. I really needed this. I haven't laughed in quite a while. After my little incident with Theon, I took some time to cool off, and roughly a couple of days after, I decided it was time to go back to Bear Island. Lord Stark, so far, had decided to keep the betrothal and unite our families even more. The Aemon and the other had died during that time. Blood loss, severe trauma, and infection. But nobody can blame me, Rob. Was angry, but understood things like that can happen, in duels or the likes. But he was also angry at Theon for insulting his sister. My situation with Sansa was weird now. Sansa was quite infatuated with me now, becoming a bit too clingy. But I suppose it is because she thinks I started a war to protect her, which was not the case. I did it because it had to be done. She was just a good excuse to do so, without getting any repercussions. This, of course, is not all bad. It was my end goal, and it will make my life easier once we marry. But it was too soon, perhaps. Nonetheless, it was time to continue with my business ideas and evolve the North. With the hydroponic sheds being built in the North, I had to focus on finding who could provide silkworms. With them, I would be able to create one of the most expensive items in the world. But for that to happen, I would have to create some sort of warm environment for them. The harsh cold of winter would kill my poor silkworms in a matter of seconds. But now that I had Pike, I could expand my business there. After all, the climate there was warmer and more welcoming to this type of business. While by southern standards it was still cold, it was considerably less than any place in the north. "Welcome home, my lord," Maegate said with a warm gruff. Her eyes showed. She was uncomfortable, not with me, but with our two visitors. Tywin and Tyrion Lannister. I had known for quite some time the lions were in my cave. And I knew why, and frankly it was getting boring. "Take me to them," I sighed, as I turned my gaze to Sansa. "I'm going to take care of some businesses." "Take care," Sansa smiled. "Follow me," Maegate said without even questioning how I knew the lions were in my house. The room was dimly illuminated by candles, and had 3 chairs and a table. In one was sitting Tyrion drinking wine while his father read a book. "Lord Mormont, what a pleasant surprise," Tywin said, not even looking up from his book. "Likewise, Lord Lannister, to what do I owe this unexpected surprise?" I inquired, taking the last empty chair, as I dismissed Meg out of the room. "Please, let's not. I am well aware you knew I was here," Tywin said, putting his book on the table. "Your spy network is on par with the spider. The difference is that, unlike the spider, you can't be spied on." This was refreshing. I didn't expect him to be so straightforward. "So you send your son to do that?" "I think there are other ways to get rid of him," I chuckled. "I agree with Lord Mormont," Tyrion chuckled back. "You know why we are here, so let's talk about that." Tywin ignored us. "Fine, my answer is no. I can also recite that in Low Valyrian. It was already bad enough that I had to marry a teen soon. I was not going to downgrade this age situation to a kid. The Starks were trustworthy. If I married a Lannister, I would wake up one day with a knife on my back. Or simply I would not wake up. "We can offer you so much more than the Starks," Tywin offered, and his tone said, "I will give you the North, of course." He didn't voice this out, but he implied it. Tywin, while a cruel, ruthless, never went back on a deal. He would ensure I had the North if I took his deal. But that deal had a unspoken underline, that if I took it, I would basically be kneeling to him, for Tywin doesn't have allies, but subordinates, underlings. "I know, but I most decline. I'm not interested." I had to tread carefully with him. If he considered an enemy too early into the story, things could get complicated. I gave my word, and I must uphold my honor. Tywin scoffed. "Use that sentimental crap with Lord Stark. The offer will be always available. But hear me out. You will never marry Sansa Stark." I chuckled as I stood up my chair. That sounded like a threat. "Lord Lannister, it's a warning. I might be interested in breaking the betrothal, but I won't be the one to do it," Tywin said, staring at me. "When that unavoidable day comes, reach me out." It was pretty clear what he meant. Robert Baratheon will break this betrothal. To be honest, it had crossed my mind once or twice. But I never really considered this to be a real possibility. Robert loved Ned like a brother and would never force him to do that. But what if someone whispered to him that just like Rhaegar Targaryen, I was stealing Sansa from Joffrey? That alone would be enough to push the drunkard piece of shit to make something rash. "You plan on manipulating the deck to your favor," I glared at him. "Until then, Lord Mormont, Warden of the Iron Islands," Tywin said, leaving the room. "A piece of advice father always gets what he wants," Tyrion said, leaving the room. "So do I. The old lion has his ways, so did I." After the Lannisters left my house, with the imminent warning of a plot starting to boil, I had to prepare. The king could break out betrothal. It was his right as the ruler of the 7 kingdoms. I couldn't stop that without going to a war. I knew I couldn't win, but he can't break a marriage. If I married Sansa, I would ensure to cut the cards Tywin had. But I couldn't marry Sansa until she had her first blood, which brought me back to square one. They can't leave me the fuck alone. Shit just continues to come. Everyone wants to force me into the game. I just saved my betrothal and now is in fucking danger again. I can't catch a break, can I? Fuck my life. With new problems in my way, I decided to let things flow. I had little control over what the king decided, but maybe I had control over what he heard. It was no secret Cersei Lannister was against the idea of me and Morsella all the way. If I played my hand correctly, I could acquire a temporary ally to destroy the plot Tywin is boiling. But Cersei was a wild card. She was as unpredictable as they come, so I had to be sure of thinking this through. My other option was to befriend the drunkard bastard, and ensure he would not be manipulated against me. Or option C, I could use Lord Stark connection to the king. So how was the meeting? Saint Cyr inquired, entering my solar. Well, good is not a word I would use it to describe it. I sighed while getting a cup of wine. What happened? Sansa inquired. And for a moment I pondered whether to be honest with her or not. She is to be my wife, so I should start trusting her more. And if by some reason they broke the betrothal, she needed to know why, so I decided to explain what happened. Well, you might want to sit down for this one. I sighed as I started to explain in detail the situation currently threatening our betrothal. She had to grow up sometime and understand that in this world, everyone plays the Game of Thrones, whether they like it or not, and that even if she didn't want to, she was another player. Varys POV. A few months ago, the Queen ordered me to request a faceless man to kill Lord Mormont. Frankly, it was a tad much, but the Queen is like that. The faceless men operate in mysterious ways. The harder the target to kill, the higher the price. How they know how hard a person would be to kill is unknown, but they have their ways. When I asked for a quote, they gave me none. They simply informed, said contract was no possible. It was clear they didn't want to take the contract, but why they didn't want to was unclear. Their words were even more mysterious. A man cannot kill that man. A life that has been blessed by the stranger is hard to take away. The faceless man said, leaving with me a new enigma. If a group of assassins that considered any life to be expendable considered him to be, as they called, blessed by their god, something was going on. Lord Mormont was already an unexpected mystery for me, and now things continued to make him more and more enigmatic. The Queen will not be happy with the price. I sighed as I walked down the hallway to meet her. If there was one thing I hated about this was not knowing, and I didn't know a thing about him. It's been a month since I explained Sansa the situation we were in. She understood with simplicity of what was going on, but reacted as one would expect of a child, panicking. But like me, she shared the idea that I should contact the king. But considering Lady Stark wanted to end our betrothal, this was quite a delicate situation. So I decided to send a raven to deliver the message, telling Lord Stark about the plots the lions were cooking. While I focused on other important matters, getting my silkworms, apparently there was one merchant in Essos that sold the little bastards, and he happened to be the one that had something I wanted. 3 dragon eggs. Magister Illyrio, not only he had a contact with someone that distributed silkworms for silk farms, but also had 3 dragon eggs at his disposal, and he didn't know about their real value. If I managed to buy those little eggs, I would ensure that Daenerys never became a threat, to me at least. But those weren't the only dragon's eggs in the world. In total, there were 5 eggs in this world, according to the books at least. One would be found, or will be found, by Euron Greyjoy, who will proceed to be an idiot and throw it into the sea. And the last one location is unknown. Some say is in Dragonstone, others say in Beyond the Wall. But no one can say for sure. With this in mind, I ordered one of my krakens, 2 ravens, and many other fish to find Euron and keep an eye on him should he find the dragon egg. I would take it from him and kill the last Greyjoy. If I managed to collect all the dragon eggs, I would acquire 5 dragons, 5 mythical flying fire-breathing beasts, and I would become nearly unstoppable. I'll be back. Besides, you get to be with your family for a bit. I know you miss Jane, I smiled as I whispered with a smirk. And Arya, fine, but just so you know, Mother will try to persuade me to break our betrothal, Sansa pouted. That's why you will talk with your father. Only he can convince the king. As of now, he hasn't break anything. I knew Sansa would talk with her father, and that Lord Stark knew, thanks to my messenger, what the Lannisters were plotting. And the wolves hated the lions, so with all this information, he would at the very least show resistance to any idea about breaking my betrothal. I know. I have to be the one in our side now that Mother is against us. Sansa sighed, grabbing my hand softly. Yes, you have. Until we marry. I nodded, reciprocating her gesture. Be safe. I'll be back in a couple months, after I ensure some trading routes with Essos. And I'll be waiting, Sansa smiled. Everyone kept pushing into the game. One way or another, they wanted me to play, so perhaps I had to play so that I could destroy the game once and for all. I wasn't entirely sure, but one thing was sure. If I didn't play, they would keep poking me, testing my limit until I snapped. But to play the game, I needed more than what I had, so I was determined to buy the dragon eggs the Magister had. And by the information I had, those 3 babies were quite expensive. But I would pay their hatched weight in gold if I had to. 3 dragons would highly increase my possibilities of winning. Sir, the ship is ready, one of the Ironborn said, respect and some light adoration in his eyes. No one would believe they wanted to kill me a couple of months ago. Then let's go, I ordered, getting inside the ship. My trip to Essos was, as I expected to be, boring, and incredibly long. It would take a couple more days to arrive. Part of me was excited to see this new unknown land, but another part of me was stressed. The possibilities of finding my father and the bitch he married to were big, but I didn't have time to cling into the past, without him being an idiot letting his dick control him. I wouldn't be here. I needed control to have success, and by no means the idiot of a father I was given in this life had the brain, nor vision to understand that. "We should be there in 5 days, my lord," the captain informed me. Good, I nodded, letting him know I wanted to be alone. But other thoughts crowded my mind. What if Sansa didn't succeed? And Tywin managed to whisper the right words to the king. I had no political power to stop that. If the king said so, I was destined to lose her. Perhaps this was the way of the gods to show me I should be king. Only then I would have the power to break this wretched wheel of plots and power. Renard Mormont at the first of his name, I chuckled as I served a cup of wine. The things these political sharks push me to do, perhaps this was the only way. Why aim for lordship when you can aim for kingship? Well, I hope you are happy, Tywin, because I'm in. Let the game begin. Cersei Lannister, POV. Father wanted to break the betrothal between Ronard and Sansa, saying we needed to strengthen our bonds with the North, and had succeeded in manipulating the idiot I have for a husband. All it took was a couple of words to revive his emotions to what happened with Lyanna and Robert. Started to consider breaking the betrothal. I don't know how, but he convinced Joffrey of supporting this charade. Probably appealing to his sadistic side. Joffrey is into this just because it will bring sorrow to others. Robert is yet to make a decision, but one way or another the old lion gets his way. Robert Baratheon, POV. Tywin came to visit. That old lion is nothing but trouble, but brought something to my attention that it was worth noticing. Tywin said that Sansa should be betrothed to Joffrey. At first, I didn't mind, but Joffrey all of a sudden was infatuated with her. What if this was like Lyanna and me? I can't allow that to happen. What should I do? Damn it, Ned. It should have been you in this fucking chair, I growled as the wine boy poured more wine in my cup. Idiot? The king is, yours unbeknownst to the king, an incredibly wise and powerful raven was seeing everything. Joffrey Baratheon, POV. Grandfather came and offered me a deal. He said I would make 2 important people suffer if I accepted. All I had to do was to make father believe I wanted Sansa Stark. I was delighted with the idea. The only bad part was I had to marry an ugly northerner, but I was to be king. And a king can do as he pleases. After I'm done with her, I'll just kill her and make that bastard in the north suffer even more, knowing he never had her. I can't wait to see them suffer. Varys POV. Tywin had made his play. Quite a dangerous one, might I add. He is manipulating the king to do his bidding, so that the crown has the north, and so that he can betroth his granddaughter to the young lord. This will end bad. I can feel it. The tides of the game are changing, and the realm is in danger. I wonder if this will make Lord Mormont enter the game. He is now one of the big players. Things are just getting complicated. Essos, or to be precise, Pentos, was quite a charming place. It almost made the month-long trip worth it. The place was like most tropical places, with sun, beaches, and a lot of business. But I didn't come here for pleasure. I had a mission, or I should say I had 2 missions. First, I had to get some silkworms to produce silk and sell it in Westeros. And 2, I needed to buy the dragon eggs Magister Illyrio had. There was always the possibility the eggs would not hatch while in my possession, but even if they didn't hatch, it was infinitely better than to allow someone else to have an edge on me. Even if they didn't hatch, they were worth their price, because I would be taking a threat out of the equation long before it became a threat. You guys stay in the ship and protect it, I ordered my man as I stepped out of the ship. Aye, my lord, the men shouted in agreement. Finding Magister Illyrio wasn't that hard at all. All it took was ask a couple of locals, and I was soon heading in the right direction. Though there was a little cloud of doubt looming above my head. What if he refused to do business with me because he supports the Targaryen? And if he did accept to make a trade route with me? Would I meet Viserys for what I read in the books? He was quite the pretentious moron. So he might want to make me kneel for him. That or offer me Daenerys' hand in marriage if I give him my army, which was tempting by itself if he did. He would die and I would have a claim to the throne. Of course, this was in the case Robert Baratheon was stupid enough to make an enemy of me by breaking my betrothal to Sansa. I didn't want to break my betrothal, not because I loved Sansa, because I didn't, but because I wanted to stay out of the game and have a lordly life. I didn't care before who sat in the Iron Throne. But they kept pushing me, testing me. Plots within plots to make me their ally, to kill me or to manipulate me. They forced me into the game. And if the worst-case scenario came to happen, and Tywin Lannister succeeded in his mission, well, I would formally enter the Game of Thrones. And Daenerys would give me an army if that happened, military alliances with Dorne, which, by itself, was a step in the right direction. I, of course, would save Sansa even if I didn't love her. She was someone I came to care about. I wouldn't stay and watch her suffer under the lions. But all this was just based on the hypothetical scenario. Tywin succeeds in breaking my betrothal. Sometimes I wondered, what would have happened if I killed him in Bear Island? A man can dream. I just don't understand what is he thinking. I understand he wants Sansa to keep the North. But what makes him think, I will accept Morsel after all the shit he is putting me through? Does he really thinks I will just fall in line and bend my knee to him? I will enjoy killing the old man, I chuckled dryly, fantasizing of all the ways I would torture the old lion before cutting his miserable head. I might even make a weekend out of it. Robert Baratheon POV. Jon Arryn, that man was like a father to me, and all of a sudden he was death. One day he was scolding me for spending too much gold on whores and drinks, and the next he was gone. I was left alone in this nest of vipers. I needed someone I could trust. I needed Ned with me here, ruling for me while Kay warred, the way it was supposed to be. I also needed to ensure my son didn't marry someone like his mother, full of vile and hate. In the end, Sansa was the best choice for him. Ned was honorable, and so were his kids. The Mormont brat would understand. My son wanted Sansa, and perhaps if he married out of love, and not like I did with the viper of his mother, he would have a better married life. It was time to go to the north and get my last friend alive to help me rule this shitty place. Back to Ronard POV. Master Ilio was quite the extravagant man. His castle was extravagant, or sure, full of gold and over-the-top expensive decorations. Physically, Illyrio was morbidly obese, complete with pig's eyes and fat cheeks, with a disgustingly oily-looking beard. Personally, all I knew about him was that he was one of the only friends Varys had, and that he supported the Targaryens. "Welcome, Lord Mormont," Illyrio said warmly. He didn't seem to have any hostility against me. Then again, he was a businessman, and it was a requirement to hide your emotions while making businesses. "A pleasure to be here, Magister Illyrio." I smiled, offering my hand for a handshake, which he took reluctantly. "So what brings you all the way here to Essos?" Illyrio inquired as we walked through his garden. "I want to make some trade routes, and buy some things I was told only you can provide," I admitted. "I see," Illyrio hummed. "I'm glad I can be of assistance. And by the way, if you don't mind, can I ask you a few questions?" "Sure, be my guest," I nodded, intrigued to what he wanted to know. "How is Westeros? All I get is outdated information." Illyrio chuckled. "Well, that is one complicated question with an even complicated answer," I chuckled. I knew what he was doing. He wanted to see where my alliances align with. Well, for starters, the Ironborn are no longer raiding or rapping. "Did the god themselves descend?" Illyrio inquired. I knew he knew about it. He is friends with the spider. He has to be at least well-informed. "In a way," I sighed. "I was tired of their ways, so I took control over them." "So, you are the new warden of the Iron Islands," Illyrio said in a matter-of-fact way. "Yes," I nodded. "Very well, so what did you want to buy from me?" Illyrio inquired, seemingly done with the questions for now. "I want silkworms, as many as you can provide, and a collectible item you have." It was the moment of truth. Would he sell me the eggs or deny their existence? "What item, may I ask?" Illyrio inquired curiously. 3 dragon eggs," I informed him. "I want to buy them from you." For a moment, Illyrio was quiet and didn't say a word, and I expected the worst. But after a minute, he said, "Sure, I will be sad to part with them, but the gold will soothe that pain. They are quite expensive, you know." "Gold is not a problem," I smiled. I had succeeded at least in one of my endeavors so far. "Just what I like to hear," Illyrio laughed, making his belly and man-tits bounce in a disturbing manner. "The silkworms will take a couple of months. They are brought from far away. You are welcome to stay with me during that time." I smiled. "That sounds lovely. I just have to let my men know we'll be here for a while then." "You came without guards to my castle. While the trust is appreciated, Essos is not safe." "I'll send some Unsullied with you," Illyrio said. Little did he know, unless a battalion came for me, I was good. "Thanks once again," I smiled, as I took off back to my ship with a dozen Unsullied guards protecting me. Greetings, POV. I had contacted Illyrio beforehand when I found out the young lord of the Iron Islands and the Bear Island was on his way to meet him. If we played our cards well, we could gain a powerful ally to the realm. All my old friend had to do was ensure he stayed for a bit. The King Robert Baratheon was never a good man in keeping relationships. Dorne already hates him, and now that he is in process to break the betrothal between the young lord and Sansa, and he will also make an enemy of the Iron Islands. But like they said, the enemy of my enemy is my ally. This opened a new realm of possibilities. The young bear was smart, capable, and a dangerous foe. But if we moved the tides to our favor, his tides to our favor, and presented him with an option once his betrothal ended abruptly, we would gain his support to put the Targaryen dynasty back in the throne. It was certainly better to marry the princess to someone in the realm. Her brother had other ideas, but I didn't know how he would react. He was in the end a wild card. I'll be leaving to Essos for some business. Tell the king and queen, I told Pycelle. For what? Pycelle inquired. To renegotiate the price of a life like the queen asked me to. Lies, lies, lies. Lies make the world run and keep castles together. How I dream of a world without lies. This place really makes me forget all the shit I have to deal with back home. I chuckled, seeing the view through my balcony. The room I was given was quite luxurious, nothing to what I was accustomed to, making me feel like in a 5-star hotel. From the balcony I could see my ship from afar. Everything was quite comfortable. But all good things have to come to an end. Sometime later, after my arrival at Pentos, one of my raven arrived with dire but no unexpected news. Jon Arryn had died like he did in the original series, and the king wanted to break my betrothal and get Ned to be his hand. Tywin managed to do what he wanted for the last time. Ned, of course, could still say no, but my chances were low. Caw-caw, what do we do? Caw-caw, Raven Rangers. The Raven started to sing the new theme song for his squad. Nothing. Any news about Euron? I inquired, chuckling at my feathered friend. Nothing so far, Caw, but we know the spider is coming to Essos. The Raven shook his head in shame. It's okay, I have these for now. I smiled, showing him the dragon eggs, who cost me a big, and I mean big, chunk of money. Co, do you want me to sit on them and brood them? The Raven said, approaching the massive eggs and sitting on them, trying to give them enough warmth to hatch them. No, but you can try, I chuckled. Brothers, we have to brood these eggs, the Raven shouted, and immediately after 12, Raven entered and sat on the eggs. We will be good parents, Caw. I cawed, will teach them the pleasure of corn. I will teach them the pleasure of killing! Caw! They will be super ravens, my maternal instincts feel it, Caw. I laughed for a good time as I saw the ravens shifting positions to make sure every inch of the eggs was covered in feathers and warmth. After a few minutes, all I could see was a ball of feathers that was composed of ravens. Pushing the laugh out, I started to focus. After all, it was time to play the game. They managed to push me to the point I actually joined this disgusting game. If King Robert did in the end break my betrothal, I would answer accordingly, in war. If I didn't do anything after what he was about to do, I would be seen by my men as a coward, and I would lose their respect. And I couldn't let that happen. War was looming above my head, and was one of the main reasons I traveled all the way to Essos. While I was safe in my lands, because none of the 7 kingdoms had a chance to invade me, I didn't have the firepower to win the war. But here in Essos, there were many possibilities, many things I could acquire for the upcoming war. The Unsullied, the Dothrakis, the Second Sons. If push comes to shove, I would have many options to increase my military power and take control over Essos and the 7 kingdoms. How is your day, Lord Mormont? Lorio inquired as he entered the room. He gave me. Fine so far, worried about stuff in my home, nothing to concern you about. It has been almost 2 weeks since I got to Essos, and I had yet to see the Targaryens. I see, Illyrio trailed off, seeing my ravens, all staring at him. My pets don't pay much attention to them, I laughed. Aren't they adorable? I suppose, Illyrio said, still eyeing my ravens. So, any particular reason you wanted to see me, Magister? I inquired, eyeing the man carefully. I wanted to let you know my contact for the silkworms will be arriving in 3 weeks, Illyrio smiled. He thinks that I'm not aware of this, but I'll let him play his game until the spider arrives. Thanks for letting me know. Daenerys Targaryen POV. All we know about him is that he was about the same age as me, and that he started as a small lord that ended up taking control of the Iron Islands, becoming the warden of them. We were in different areas of the castle to avoid seeing each other. My brother didn't understand why we were hiding from him. He said that any lord should kneel before him, for he was the dragon. You think he will help us? I asked Viserys. Magister Illyrio is making sure he is trustworthy, Viserys answered, not even looking at me, but it doesn't matter, soon he will kneel to the dragon. Nobody should wake the dragon. It's something Viserys has burned into my soul. Ned Stark POV. A lot of things were happening in my lands at the same time, bad omens for the north. Lord Mormont had gone to Essos. Direwolves that were thought to be extinct. Appearing soon after, Jon Arryn, a man that seemed he would outlive us, died. King Robert was coming. Things would end bad. I could feel it. Jon Arryn is dead, and the king is coming. I sighed. I couldn't let my old friend be alone in the south. He needed someone to rely on. Yes, you can say no, Cat shouted. You fought a war for him, you know as well as I do, Starks. Don't do well in the south. Aye, I sighed. But if not that you can't, is that you won't, Cat said, angry. I decided that while I waited for the spider, I would get to know the city and see how my men were doing, leaving my ravens brooding the eggs affectionately, which was weird. They were all mom mode now. The city was full of life, to say the least, with people buying and selling stuff, and it generally gave a vibe that seemed to match the Middle Eastern in my world. But I wasn't out just exploring, I was gathering information. With a war looming above my head, I had to explore new possibilities. For the first one, the Unsullied costed a fucking ton of gold. The Second Sons were almost as expensive as they were. Now the Dothraki were an easy target if I wanted to increase my army exponentially in number. It was quite simple. They believed in some kind of horse god, and I happened to be able to control animals. All I had to do was make their horses kneel, and they would take it as an omen that I was the great stallion that would ride the world or something. But like the Ironborn, their culture was disgusting and had to be molded. Without even noticing, as I pondered with the many scenarios where this could go, I arrived at the coast, where my ships were. "My lord, how is everything?" one of my men asked as I approached. "The same as always," I sighed. "Had you guys had any troubles with the locals?" "Nay, we are keeping ourselves inside the ship. We take turns to go out," and the man started to get nervous, which by his body language implied they were going for whores, but were afraid to tell me. "I don't care if you fuck all the whores in Pentos, as long as they willingly accept," I chuckled. The man started to laugh out loud. "Well, they aren't complaining, they are sucking the gold out of our dicks." I laughed, seeing how visibly relaxed he got, knowing I didn't see whoring as something bad, not necessarily. "I don't see you complaining about the gold you are losing." "Nay, is a good way to lose gold." The man laughed even harder. "I suppose," I chuckled as I took a sit close to him. "Don't bring me problems with the locals, their compliance is necessary. For now, I will be more careful. I'll tell the man they can't get too drunk." The man nodded. "Make sure you do that." I nodded. Sansa Stark, POV. It has been almost a month and a half since Ronard left to Pentos. I missed him every day, but now I had a new friend to keep me busy. Lady. Father and my brothers had found some dire wolves while they left for an execution. Lady was the best. I always wanted a dog, but this is certainly better. I wonder what Ronard is doing. He's going to miss the king and the royal family coming. I miss him a lot. "Come on, Lady, we have to get ready," I petted Lady, who stretched a bit and proceeded to follow me. Ronard Mormont, POV. Today, like any other day, I was walking through Ilio's garden, wondering how things will end up playing. It has been a month since Ilio told me that his contact, aka the spider, would arrive in a fortnight, and he still hadn't, and by now the novelty of being in Pentos had worn out. The last raven I sent to check the estimated arrival time told me that the sea was wild at this moment, and it would take some time for the spider to arrive. The spider has arrived. A raven informed me, slowly descending into my shoulder. Finally, the master of whispers arrived. "Let's go and get ready to meet him." I smiled. Things were calm for the moment. The king had yet to break my betrothal. That would in turn open a metaphorical box of Pandora. Taking a deep breath, I cleared my thought as I walked to my room to get a bath and get ready. The spider was already in Pentos. "How are the eggs, by the way?" I asked the raven on my shoulder. "Ka! Nothing so far. We are increasing the amount of brooding." The raven answered. "All right, keep me posted." I chuckled. Where is POV? It took a bit more than I expected to arrive. The sea was particularly on my side this trip, but I managed to get to Pentos in one piece. "Long time no see, old friend," Illyrio greeted me with a smile. "It's always a pleasure," I smiled. "Where is the young lord?" Taking a bath, getting ready for something, Illyrio answered. Impressive, but hardly unexpected. The young lord knew I was coming. I wonder if he knows the Targaryen are here. He never stops to surprise me. He knows I am here. How could he know? Illyrio inquired with puzzlement. The young lord is full of surprises. One of them is how well-informed he is, and how little informed we are about him. Information just goes one way with him. I admitted, he was the hardest person in the world to spy on. Every house knew this, for their spies would suddenly appear dead, or worse. I see, if you said so, it's hard not to believe it. Illyrio sighed. Let him know we are waiting for him. It was time to see if we could move the tides of the young bear to our favor, and ensure the safety of the realm. I will, Illyrio nodded. Back to Ronard POV. I was ready to personally meet the spider, while I originally expected to meet him on King's Landing. This was also acceptable. The game pushed me out of the path I was walking. It sucked into this wretched world. I was still with one foot on my old path and one in the new one. They broke my betrothal, I would be officially and irrevocably in the game, but at this point my betrothal was just an excuse. I knew my breaking point was near whether they broke my engagement or not. I knew I would join the game one way or another, because I was tired of it. Tywin just pushed me into this path earlier than it was supposed to happen on its own. My contact is here. Illyrio entered my room with a smile. But something was different. He was looking at me differently. He knew I knew. Neat. So the spider is here. Well, time to crawl into his web. I chuckled, getting a mild look of surprise from Illyrio. Follow me, Illyrio finally managed to say, walking out of my room with me following him close behind. And there he was, sitting in the shadows, the spider, waiting for me. To what do I owe the pleasure? I inquired, sitting on a chair in front of him. Illyrio also sat down on the opposite end. Not many would consider meeting me a pleasure, but I suppose you are the exception for many things, Varys said, serving himself and me a cup of wine. I grabbed the cup and took a sip and smiled. So how in the realm? Good, for now, Varys sighed. Is my betrothal still active? Being honest with the spider was possibly the best. He was already cryptic enough. You can consider it broken, Varys took a deep breath. Lord Tywin wants you, and with Sansa in the south and your alliance to the north, he would get you even if you didn't marry Myrcella. I chuckled, anger building within my very core. But the old lion, while terrifying, lacked something. Varys said with a soft smile, he lacks vision. He thinks himself above anyone, including the king. He thinks like the rest you will fall into line and do as he pleases, but you won't. Am I right? I stared at Varys with this excruciating look before bursting into laughs. For not being able to spy on me, you sure know me. I used to gather information before having spies, while certainly harder. I know some bits about you, not much, but enough to get a general idea of who you are, Varys admitted. Impressive nonetheless, I nodded, as my tone grew colder and my eyes became darker. You do realize, while I don't love Sansa, I have to respond to this insult, right? I do, I just thought I could use this for the betterment of the realm, Varys nodded. You want to use me to put the Targaryens on the throne, the same ones in this castle? I chuckled darkly, making Illyrio choke on his wine. Varys looked impressed for a short amount of time before he sighed and nodded. I do. You must know the next in line to the throne is even worse than our current king. And as we have seen during the last few months, that threshold is vast. I chuckled. It is. Varys chuckled. I suppose this is the part where you propose me a deal? I said, cutting to the grain. I do, Varys nodded. You will be without betrothal soon. How about we make a new one? You want me to marry Princess Daenerys Targaryen? I chuckled, already expecting this development. I do, Varys nodded. Daenerys wasn't a bad match. But if the spider thought I would kneel to Viserys, he had another thing coming. Daenerys Targaryen POV. Viserys has started talking with Magister Illyrio about my future possible betrothals to ensure him an army. I didn't want to marry anyone in Essos. I wanted to go home. But Viserys didn't care. He said he would let a Dothraki horde fuck, including their horses, if they gave him an army. Gods, please help me. Back to Ronard Mormont POV. I told Viserys I couldn't just accept the betrothal while I still had one with Sansa, but if like we thought the betrothal broke, I would accept under certain conditions. He would have to ensure safe return for Sansa and Aera to the north. If he provided that, I would join his crusade to put a Targaryen on the throne. While I didn't love Sansa, I came to care for her. She was but an innocent girl too young that was about to learn the harsh truth of reality. She didn't deserve all the suffering coming her way. And if it was in my power, I would stop it. Though I never said what Targaryen I would put on the throne. I didn't pretend to put Viserys on it. And besides, if Daenerys was to marry me, she would be a queen. It's not my fault Varys left so many blanks on his deal, but perhaps the spider knew about them and didn't care. He seemed crafty enough. After our mutual agreement where he would ensure the Stark sisters went back to the north when all the future shit of the game exploded, and in return I would marry Daenerys and help him save the realm, he left, saying that his presence was needed in the realm, not without telling me I would meet the Targaryen siblings soon. Time to plan, I sighed in my room, as I heard my ravens talking about how good they were brooding. After my meeting with Varys and our mutual agreement to help each other out, him because he wanted the best for the realm, and me because I was tired of the game, I took a couple days to cool off and organize my thoughts before the imminent war started. I knew Varys was right. I knew before he even said it. My betrothal was as good as broken. The king had that kind of power, and Lord Stark, while probably not happy with this development, would do nothing to stop him. So much for honor, and to add a cherry over the top. Catelyn's love for me didn't help. She hated me, and wanted to get rid of my betrothal with Sansa, so the idea of her daughter being a queen in the future would sure sweeten the deal. They're ready, Illyrio announced, letting me know the Targaryen siblings were ready to meet me. Very well, I nodded. I followed the Magister through his castle, while deep in thought. This time my marriage, if both parties agreed, would be immediate. I would have to sleep with her after the ceremony. She was older than Sansa by 2 or 3 years. Being around me age, but unlike my time with Sansa, there would be no room for romance, or make her fall in love with me. I would have to do that after we married. Life finds a way to fuck with you. We are here, Illyrio woke me up from my train of thought, just in time to see the royal siblings standing in front of me. Daenerys and Viserys. Daenerys was a young woman in her early teens. Daenerys had the classical Valyrian look, with beautifully unique violet eyes, pale skin, and long, pale silver gold hair. She had a slender frame, with average-sized breasts. Daenerys, in other words, she was beautiful. Viserys, like his sister, had the classical Valyrian features, with pale skin, silver blonde hair, but instead of having purple eyes, he had pale lilac eyes. Viserys was the first one to approach, and I could already tell I would not like him in the least. He had that air while walking that said, "I'm superior to you in every way, and you should kneel." "A pleasure to meet you," Viserys said, expecting me to bow. Likewise, I nodded. I could practically hear him shout inside his head, because I didn't bow. "So we have things to discuss, right?" I said, taking a seat. Viserys nodded, gesturing to follow him. I ignored him and proceeded to introduce myself to the princess. "A pleasure to meet you, my lady." I kissed her hand, trying to make a good first impression. With my introductions done, I followed Viserys, who wanted to kill me for ignoring him, to discuss our alliance. I didn't like to lie, but I could manipulate by omission. "As you know, I'm the rightful king of the 7 kingdoms," Viserys said in a matter-of-fact tone. I nodded. "You can provide me an army, I can provide you a wife." Viserys sat down with a smug expression. "Seems like good trade, don't you think?" If I loved her, then yes, it would equal exchange. But it wasn't. 1 woman for army was utterly ridiculous, but she did have her political advantages. That after Viserys died, as her husband I would have a claim to the Iron Throne, and more. "So you want my army, and you'll give me your sister?" I inquired. "Yes, that and for you to bend the knee," Viserys nodded. "We'll talk after the war." There was no way in hell I would kneel to him. Viserys shifted his position on the chair uncomfortably, not expecting opposition from me. "I'm your king. Don't worry, I will give the Targaryens their rightful place in the throne." I chuckled, making him relaxed visibly, but he didn't read the underline of my comment. I said I would give a Targaryen the throne. I never said who. "Then let's prepare the wedding, so we can leave and take what's mine," Viserys said, not pushing the kneeling thing any longer. "We can't win, not with my army alone." I stopped his idiotic train of thought. "Are you going back to what we just agreed on?" Viserys inquired angrily. "I don't recall agreeing to anything. Is he really that desperate? But let's follow his train." "No, what I meant is I need a bigger army, and Essos can provide that." Viserys eyed me for a second before asking, "What do you plan to do?" "I plan to increase my numbers. Only then taking the 7 kingdoms is plausible," I informed him, wondering how stupid he was. Not once in my conversation I said I would give him an army. Yet he assumed so. "For now, that will do." "I see! And how do you plan to increase our numbers?" Viserys asked. "By making a deal with the Dothraki." I smiled. Little did he know what I had planned. Very well, I give you permission to proceed, Viserys said, and I had to control my urge to slap some sense into the entitled bastard. But the wedding must proceed immediately. He really wants to see our alliance be sealed. Sadly, he didn't have much time ahead of him. Sadly, he wasn't going to be here to see his family back on the throne. Well, me on the throne, but with his sister, which still counts. As you wish, I nodded. I never expected to marry Daenerys. I considered her a threat until the lion fucked my chill path over. Sansa Stark POV. My betrothal was broken. It didn't matter how much I begged father or mother, they simply didn't care. I loved Ronard. I was to marry the prince. There was a time I wanted to marry the prince. Yes, he was handsome, but I didn't want him anymore. I wanted to be his lady. Lady Mormont. But there is nothing I can do. The king was the one to break it. There was nothing Renardard could do. Why life had to be so cruel with me. I'll miss him. He was so kind and nice with me, I said between tears as Jane tried to make me feel better. Maybe the prince will take your broken heart and mend it, Jane offered. It seemed I was destined like Mother to marry without love. But unlike Mother I loved beforehand, I loved him. Would I love another after my heart was already taken? I don't care. I couldn't see any positive side to this, but perhaps Jairus right. Perhaps the prince would be kind and soothe my broken heart eventually. Ned Stark POV, outside Winterfell bunting with Robert. As we left Winterfell, all I could think was how Robert broke Sansa's betrothal and how he had put me in a political whirlwind of, like he would say, shit. The Mormont invited in my household that day, left with their soldiers without saying a word. And so did the Ironborn. They took it as an insult. Robert said to let them go and to not worry, that he would call for the kid to bend the knee, like he should have done after taking control of the Iron Islands. For fuck's sake, Ned, stop with that face, Robert grumbled. I broke my word. You made me break my word, I growled. It's not like it's the first time, or the bastard was an honorable action, Robert growled back. The brat will understand, or his head will roll. Simple as that, Ned. Our families need to be together. I couldn't be with Lyanna. I won't let my son suffer the same fate. If only you knew who really was the bastard, as you called it, you would have my head. Robert, I still don't like it. The lad was nothing but honorable, and I broke his trust. And possibly my relationships with his family. He alone made the fucking North better, and with this shit you pulled I might have fucked that. Fuck the kid. If he brings your boy problems, I'll smash his head myself, so stop crying, Ned. Robert laughed. I eyed him. Maybe in the past that promise would have had some weight. Now he was the one with weight, not his words. I might be fat, but I still can swing my hammer, Robert said, as if reading my mind. I see the lad fight. You'd better lose some weight if you want to fight him, I chuckled dryly. Haha, that's it, Ned. Lighten up, Robert laughed. When Viserys said he wanted to proceed with the marriage immediately, I did not expect to be so literal. We spoke about our pseudo-alliance a week ago, and today was my wedding day. What a joy. I wasn't particularly thrilled with the idea. I guess I'm still hang-ups with the social spectrums of my first world. There is something about marrying so young, and marrying without any kind of love, that makes it feel devoid of anything. But I suppose it was a long time coming, though I originally expected to be marrying Sansa. After all, while I didn't love her, I was fond of her. But in the end, it appears that wasn't meant to happen. Now, here I was getting ready for my big day. Normally, marriage customs in this world vary considerably between the lands, cultures, and major fates. Considering I was from the north, but Daenerys was from the south, and taking note that I was now the Lord of the Iron Islands, it kinda left me with problems to pick the ceremony style. For a South-style wedding, I would need the presence of particular sacred witnesses, aka the Septon, mostly because the Faith of the Seven was the major religious cult in the South. For a North-style wedding, I would need to marry in front of a heart tree to pay respect to the old gods. Now for an Iron-style wedding, I would need a priest, or priestess, to pay our respects to the drowned god while we said our vows. What all these things have in common is that the wedding is followed by a feast, where the bride and groom, aka me, eat, drink, and dance with everyone. Afterwards comes the tricky part. The bedding ceremony takes place, where the marriage is finally and absolutely consummated, or, like some say, babies are produced to ensure the family line. So basically, I was left with no other choice than to marry Daenerys in the Iron Way and bed her, but because we didn't have a priest that worshipped the drowned god, we had to get a red priest, the ones that worship the Lord of Light. Everything is ready, Illyrio said, as I walked to seal my fate with a girl I only knew in books. Aye, let this wedding start. I smiled as I followed him. The priestesses agreed to marry us according to our culture, but the blessing would be on the Lord of Light. The red priestess that we got assigned was like I expected, very similar to Melisandre, and I couldn't help but wonder, did she have the same magic powers the Red Witch had? Shaking the thoughts out of my head, I walked to my position as I waited. Eventually, after a few seconds, Daenerys came with her brother, walking side by side, until she was in front of me. The priestess smiled as she started the ceremony. "Who comes before the God of Light this night?" Westeros replied, "Daenerys of the House Targaryen comes here to be wed, a woman grown true-born and noble. She comes to beg the blessing of the gods. Who comes to claim her?" This was my cue, so I took a step forward and said, "Ronard of House Mormont, Lord of the Bear and Iron Islands. Who gives her?" Viserys replied as he stepped off the scene, "Viserys of the House Targaryen, who is her brother and protector." "Yea, sure, like you have done such a good job at protecting her." The priestess smiled as she began, "We are gathered here today in the sight of God of Light and men to bear witness to the joyous occasion that is marriage between Lady Daenerys and Lord Ronard. This was it. After today, my vows, I would have an entirely new responsibility, an entirely new mission. There would be no going back. I would have to take the throne." The priestess added, snapping me out my reverie, "Lady Daenerys, do you take this man?" Daenerys hesitated for a second, and I didn't blame her. She hardly knew me, but after a second of silence she said, "I take this man." The priestess then turned her ruby-colored eyes to me and asked, "Lord Ronard, do you take this woman?" This was the moment of truth. The moment when I officially entered the game. "I take this woman." Daenerys and I joined hands as the priestess tied our hands together with a red ribbon as she said, "In the sight of the Lord of Light, I hereby seal these two souls, binding them as one for eternity." After that, the priestess instructed us to look upon one another and say the words, "Our vows." At this point, I was staring at Daenerys' purple eyes as she stared into mine, facing each other, as we recited the following vow in unison. "I am hers, and he is mine from this day until the end of my days. We are one." After a second of silence, we joined our souls, our destinies with a kiss, sealing our fate with fire and ice. The party started with all the invited people dancing, drinking, and eating. I didn't know any of them except for my men, who were enjoying the feast to its fullest. Every now and then, someone would come and present me or my wife a gift. Illyrio gave Daenerys a beautiful chest with extremely expensive jewelry. Viserys gave her sister a silver-colored mare that put me into alert mode, considering Drogo was the one to give that to her. Did he contact the Khal? How else did he acquire such horse? I had no men to fight 40,000 Dothraki. Were they here? After a second of consideration, I decided to ignore the obvious red flag for now, considering that the Dothraki were many things and had many skills, but subtlety was definitely not on their list, so if I didn't see them, is because they weren't here. As people continued to come and go, one among them caught my attention. He was looking at me with regret. It was someone I haven't seen in 5 years. Jakra Mormont. Anger I didn't know I had saved up against him was suddenly quite tangible. I wanted to kick him, beat him up, frankly. I wanted to break him. But not today. I had other problems today. "So, wife," I chuckled. Daenerys turned her beautiful purple eyes to me and said, "Yes, I know we are both in the unknown here. I hardly know you, and you hardly know me, but we can try to get to know each other." I offered. This was bound to be harder for her than it was for me, by a big margin. Daenerys gave me a look that said she didn't expect me to be so human, as she said, "That would be nice." The party continued, with Daenerys considerably less scared than she was before, with the anticipation of how or who was I as a person. She certainly was feeling better, still full of doubt, but at least now she didn't look like she was going to die at any given moment. I, for the other hand, was showing a completely different face to what I actually felt. I was smiling on the outside, but inside my inner mini, Ronards were having a mental breakdown. Any time now, I would have to bed her, and yes, we were around the same age, and for me it was bad. But frankly, at this point, it wasn't so much that she was younger, it was that I didn't want to hurt her, to do something that would scar her. "Bedding ceremony," my men shouted, and they really should thank God. I didn't have heat vision, as a power, or they would be long gone. It didn't take much to make everyone start their chant, as they pushed us gently into the room. All I could think or process inside my mind as the door to our room drew closer was, "Freak." And so wedding night started, the big point changer in my story, where I had to accept my new life as it was with all its ups and downs. I can't keep running from things that don't match my understanding of my past laws. I was whether I liked it or not in a new world, and they were things that were expected of me. This, of course, would have been easier if it wasn't, because my ravens had warmed the bed for me, filling it with what they called soft feathers, as the whispered in my mind several mating rituals to ensure, let's forget it. Of course I ignored them. All I could do was accept my unavoidable destiny, so with that in mind, I decided to get to know Daenerys as I could before we consummated our marriage, but getting to know someone in less than 10 minutes was impossible, to say the least. For her, I was stranger, for me. She was someone I read about. We were basically in the same position, in the unknown, but for her it was more difficult. Her brother practically sold her for an army. Would she end up as mad as she did on the TV series? Or would my presence in this world prevent such development? It will hurt, I sighed. I had experience with women in my past life, but I never made love to a virgin. All I knew was what I have heard or read about. I will be as gentle as I can. Daenerys shifted uncomfortably, not knowing what to say. She had yet to give me consent, and no matter what, I was not going to take that step without consent. I won't do anything if you are not comfortable, I smiled, trying to sound as soothing as possible. I know that I'm a stranger for you, and frankly, it's not easy. Daenerys looked at me for a second before she smiled. No, I want to do this. And our marriage started with a kiss. I knew warming the bed and making it softer with our feather was the best idea. Hooray! Ravens for the win. I don't know how many hours we were in our room, consummating our marriage, but time started to feel loose of meaning. I was in the bed, looking at my wife as she eyed with curiosity the dragon eggs that I bought that were originally intended for her. I always wanted to see a dragon, Daenerys smiled. Life might surprise you. Life might. One day you might. Who knows? Daenerys looked at me as she put the egg back in the box. That sounds like a dream. And often dreams come true, I chuckled as my wife went to bed with me, resting her head on my bare chest. I dozed off into sleep as I brushed my wife's hair with my fingers. Underneath us were our blood-stained covered sheets that marked me as her first and last man because unlike Drogo, I was not going to die and leave her alone. I took a vow to keep her safe, and that I would do. I would leave long enough to sit in the Iron Throne and rule it all. I woke up next morning with Daenerys cuddling close to me, her naked body touching me ever so gently. My wife, the future mother of my children, I was not stupid to think I loved her already, but one day I would, and one day she would love me. I carefully got out of bed, making sure to not wake up my possibly sore wife. Once I was out of the bed, I started putting on my clothes, getting ready to face the new problems ahead of me. Once I was fully dressed, I got out of the room, being equally careful to not wake her up with a sudden noise or something. I then proceeded to walk to meet with Westeros and discuss our plans. He would have to die, but the how and when was the thing. So you finally come out. It is unwise to leave you king waiting, Westeros said with a somewhat angry attitude, as he stood there with a smug demeanor on his face. I stared at him for a second, wondering if cutting his head would improve his attitude, but for now I had to wait. Wait for the right moment. But regardless of that, I wasn't going to let this pretentious bastard tell me what to do. Bit used to it, I practically growled in response, daring him to take that obviously borrowed sword out. Viserys ignored my comment as he asked, "Where is my sister?" "Sleeping," I informed him. "Go and wake her up." Viserys turned her attention to a maid, who nodded. But before the maid was able to leave, I'd blocked her path. "She's sleeping, and she will remain sleeping." "I want her here," Viserys hissed. "And I want to leave my wife sleeping," I growled. Who the fuck he thinks he is? She is my wife and is my responsibility now. That means I get to decide things like this, so don't test me. Unless you want to try true despair. I left the room, leaving a threat floating in the air. Daenerys was mine now. Mess with her and I'll cut you pretty head off. Viserys was visibly shocked as I left and his hand moved towards his sword, but didn't do much more than that. Jorah Mormont POV. In accordance with my deal with Varys, I came to pledge loyalty to the Targaryens. What I didn't expect was to find my son marrying Daenerys. He was so different from what I remembered. He had grown so much without me. He had fought 2 wars and won. He was a man. Maybe he never needed me. Viserys shouted, entering my room. "Yes, my king," I inquired, not knowing why he was so angry. "You are my loyal subject, right?" Viserys inquired angrily. I nodded in response. "I am your majesty." "Then if I ordered you to kill your son, should I need it? Would you do it?" Viserys inquired, grinning like a madman. I would not. I have heard my son enough already, but I had to play the part, and it's not like I could beat him. Something about my son, something about his glare at me yesterday made me feel a beast was hunting me. I would, your majesty. Good. I might need it if he keeps disrespecting his superiors. Who does he think he is? Speaking like that to a king, speaking like that to a dragon, Viserys hissed in anger. Unbeknownst to them, an incredibly wise raven was listening to their conversation. To inform the great cornbringer of this I have. After his mating, I must. Yes, the dark side of the corn I feel growing is back to Runard Mormont, POV. I entered my room a couple of hours after my disgusting conversation with the entitled king wannabe piece of shit. Daenerys was currently brushing up her morning hair as I entered, her beautiful long silver hair barely covering her tits. You didn't wake me up, Daenerys said, but the tone was more of a question than a statement. You look so peaceful, sleeping, so I thought you deserved a good long rest. I nodded as I walked into the bathroom, feeling Daenerys looking at me from behind, her eyes drifting slowly into my ass. So you finally found the best ass is Westeros. I chuckled as she blushed, looking away. Hey, you can look and touch, or bite is yours after all. I might, Daenerys giggled, surprisingly teasing me back. I chuckled. After having breakfast with my wife, I started to machinate the best path to the Iron Throne. With or without me, Westeros would go into war. I knew that much. King Robert would die, and soon after Ned Stark will see the fruits of his idiocy. If I started my campaign for the throne now, I would make myself the sole target, and while I was somewhat confident in myself, it would be a suicide. But if I waited for them to start their own wars, it would be easy for me to dismantle them. A broken kingdom is easier to defeat. Not to count. I also had Daenerys by my side, and she probably was the only one able to hatch my dragon eggs. As I was deep in thought, a raven flew into my lap. Bad news I bring, plotting the fake dragoness for... Take care of him, we must. Yashlis. Raven Yoda was back. Good thing Disney doesn't have interdimensional lawyers. So the entitled gecko is plotting, what an unexpected development. And by unexpected I mean, I totally knew it would happen. Raven Yoda, Rhoda, took a step forward. At your call, the corn order is... Cornbringer? Rosiers. Very well. I chuckled, and how could I not? Hey, do you think you could fly with a robe? I kinda want to dress you up with a small yeti robe. I took a couple of days where I completely ignored the King of Nothing, letting him know he wasn't my first priority and that I would come to him when I decided to, and only then. I also instructed my man should he threaten Daenerys or hit her in any way to kill him. With that bullshit about waking up the dragon, she was my wife now, and I would be damned if I let her brother or anyone for that matter hurt her. I had more important things to do anyways, that to indulge the idiot, and I didn't have time to lose with his idiotic plans and ideas. I had to first take control over Essex and their forces, and only then it would be plausible to conquest Westeros. So here I was, sitting while looking at a map, wondering where to start my mission. What are you doing? Daenerys asked as she approached me, looking at the map. Trying to see where is the best place to start, I answered. Where to start getting the throne back? Daenerys asked as she sat on my lap, surprising me. I didn't expect her to sit on my lap. It wasn't unwelcome, but it was unexpected. Then again, she warmed up to Khal Drogo quite fast. Not exactly, we need more men to do that, so I'm seeing where to get them. I explained to her, without telling her about my plans of conquering Essos. Conquering Essos would be considerably harder than anything I have done so far, but if I did it, conquering Westeros would be technically speaking easy. Then again, in war and love, anything is possible. I might be the strongest man in the world, but that alone doesn't win wars. So you want to get more men? Maybe some Unsullied? Or you plan to recruit some Dothraki? Daenerys added understanding to some degree of the underlining of my plan. Aye, that's the plan, for getting that old throne back. It won't be easy, but I will certainly do it, I nodded. I see. I don't think Viserys will like it, Daenerys added, unsure. He wants the throne now. I started to chuckle, until eventually I was full-on laughing. If he wants the throne immediately, he is more than welcome to go alone to King's Landing and slay his way to the throne. He is your king, Daenerys tried to defend his brother, but was amused at my comment. If I am to kneel, it will be in bed. Going down on my wife, I chuckled, making a dirty joke to change the subject. Before the moment I married you, I decided not to kneel anymore. I decided to stop bending for others. I am the king of the Iron and Bear Islands, and that makes you a queen. Don't forget it, because I won't. With that, I left Daenerys alone to process what I told her. After leaving Daenerys, I went to talk with Illyrio. He was the one that knew how to contact the Dothraki. It would certainly be helpful if he guided me to one of them or someone that knew their language to learn it. Son, someone behind me said, putting a hand on my shoulder, making me stop. Remove your hand out my shoulder before I remove the hand out your body, I said with a cold tone. I cut my father off by bending his arm in a swift motion, throwing him into the wall, breaking the arm he used to touch me. Don't ever touch me again. I'd rather die. The feeling is repulsive. I gave him a glare that was so devoid of any good emotion, all he could stare in disbelief. And by the way, if you get close to my wife, I will show you there are destinies worse than death. And that's a promise I can deliver. I couldn't stomach that man, but I also wasn't going to be the one to kill my own father, whether the man deserved for what he had done or not. As I walked towards Iliac Solar, I heard him and the prince having a conversation. The funny thing about a super body is that every sense is enhanced. He is not doing what he promised. Viserys practically shouted, "We should be marching to King's Landing. I should have my crown by now. He is trustworthy. At least my sources say so. Perhaps he is planning for your victory, my king," Illyrio offered. "I don't care. He is taking too long. We'll start over with the original plan. I'll marry Daenerys to those savages and get 10,000 soldiers. We will kill that insolent fool and give his father his lands, who would then work for me, is frankly the best plan. I will get more men and undying loyalty. I'm a genius, as expected of the future king of the Seven Kingdoms." By this point, I had managed to sneak into the room, and had managed to serve a cup of wine. Well, that's a mighty good plan, but who's going to kill me? My question made both turn their necks so fast that they almost broke them. "You?" I pointed at Viserys. "Hardly. I don't even take my own sloppy seconds with you." "How dare you?" Viserys hissed. "The Unsullied protecting the castle," I hummed. "They at least know how to fight, but hardly a challenge." "I am your king," Viserys shouted. "Or maybe you plan to have Illyrio fight me," I said, turning my gaze to the trembling fat man. "Don't think so. Look at him. He is losing weight by just looking at me." "I would never attack a guest," Illyrio offered, still trembling. "Or maybe you would send my father." I chuckled. "Please tell me he is my father." "You will not," Viserys started to shout, but I dashed towards him and slapped him, putting his entitled ass on the floor. "I am king. I bow to no one," I said, holding my sword to my side. "Consider this the end of our alliance, not that it ever started, out of courtesy for giving me such a wonderful wife. And with that claim to the throne, I will talk with my wife about your fate, plotting to sell my wife like a whore and get me killed. Frankly, it's so sad and yet poetic. You will die in the same manner. You originally did for the same reason. You can't wait. At least this time he was right. I was never going to give him the crown." I grabbed Viserys by his shirt, not before knocking him down, as I dragged him across the floor. Not before giving the old fat man a warning. "I hope you don't try anything stupid, or you will find how terrifying I can be." "Yo, Rio, so don't fuck with me, buddy, or I'll kick your ass so hard you'll have to unbutton your collar to shit." With that done, I proceeded to get out with an unconscious on my back. Viserys being dragged across the floor like a sack of shit as I walked down the hallway to my room. While I wanted to kill Viserys, I didn't want an angry wife for the rest of my life, so I would discuss with her his punishment. But either way, he wasn't in the game any longer. Daenerys would either condemn him to his death like she did on the original timeline, or ask for a lesser punishment like imprisonment. Either way, he would not see the light of day again. Illyrio POV. The eyes of that kid. He can't be human. I saw nothing but death and despair. If I ever wronged him, I was a mercenary. I know of fear. I know of monsters. And yet this kid makes all my past terrors look childish. "Varys, what in the name of the gods you were thinking?" "We can't tame this monster," I muttered, as I remembered what Varys said before he left. "Perhaps only the dragon can tame this mighty bear." Varys chuckled. "He never meant Daenerys. No, he meant Daenerys. He plans to have that shy girl keep that monster in check. What an utterly ridiculous plan. Have you lost your touch, Daenerys?" Daenerys was not exactly happy when I entered our room, dragging Viserys alongside me, and it was to be expected. She had no idea what had just happened. "Why is my brother in that state?" Daenerys inquired, pointing at her brother on the floor with an accusatory look on her face. I sighed, trying to word out what had just happened. It wasn't easy to find the right words to basically say, your brother wanted to kill me and whore you out to a Dothraki horde to get some men. But oftentimes times is best to go with the harsh reality of the situation. That can be easily explained. I went into detail how Westeros was plotting to get me killed, and have my father take my throne, and now then, he would marry her to savages, just to gather even more men. I can't believe he would do such a thing, Daenerys said in disbelief, eyes full of tears. I sighed as I shrugged my shoulders. You can ask Illyrio, he can fact-check. Daenerys shook her head off. No, I believe you. Well, that was frankly easier than I originally thought it would. I came here so you can decide his punishment. I wanted her to be the one to select his fate. If I did it, there was a big chance she would resent me for it. But if she did it, was a totally different story. Daenerys eyed me for a second, possibly weighing the options. It was either death or imprisonment. After a few seconds where she was walking around the room trying to decide, she finally said, I know death is the most acceptable punishment, but whether he was good or not, he kept me safe all this time. I want to imprison him. While it wasn't the result I had desired from this outcome, it was still good. Nonetheless, it was a matter of time before he did something stupid and forced my sword down his neck. I'm not gonna lie, I will cherish that moment with all my heart. Very well, but if he takes a wrong step, I will kill him. I nodded as I approached her, grabbing in a tight embrace by her hips. You are my wife, and whether we love each other or not, is my duty to keep you safe. It took roughly 2 hours for Westeros to wake up, and his expression finding himself on one of the cells in my ship was priceless, unique, formidable. It almost made him still being alive worth it, seriously. Seeing his smug facade turned into one of total and absolute despair was a delicacy. So you finally rise, oh mighty dragon, I mocked, getting a hateful glare from him. Prosier. Westeros tried to say something, but his mouth was covered with homemade cloth gag, and some might wonder what a homemade cloth gag is. Well, it's a piece of used underwear from the dirtiest man under men that was utilized for this purpose. I hope you like the flavor, Petro. Hasn't taken a bath or changed underwear for the last 4 months. I laughed, seeing how Westeros started to join the dots on his head, to the point he was almost throwing up. Petro laughed in the back. Don't get all fancy on me, Westeros, I chuckled. After all, your life in prison will be quite harsh and disgusting. Petro will take a bath, and that will be your drink water, unless you rather drink other body fluids. Viserys' eyes widened in shock, fear rushing through his very core. I promised Daenerys I would keep you alive, I smiled. And I know torturing physically will not make her happy. But oh boy, physiological torture is quite better. Once you break a man, but not physically, but mentally. He can't never be mended back together again. Viserys started to try and talk again, but I cut him off. You know, I can understand the general idea of you trying to kill me. I won't let you. But heck, I can even respect you for it. I mean, it takes balls to try that, knowing you will ultimately fail. But to hurt your own blood, that is simply despicable. I left, giving my men instructions to keep him alive. He unfortunately was loved to some degree by his sister, my wife. After leaving the Sabris to suffer, I went back to Illyrio Castle to discuss a meeting with the Dothraki and possibly getting someone that could teach me their language. I needed to speak their tongue for my plan to work. Thanks, I waved him off as I started to read. The Dothraki live in hordes called Khalasars. Their chieftains are called Khalas, while the wife of a Khalad is known as a Khalasi. The heir of a Khalad is named the Khalaka. A Khadas is one of the Khalas commanders within a horde. According to a semi-canon source, a Khazas consists of the personal guard of important individuals, such as a Khalasi or a Ko. Blood Riders fulfill the roles of guards, brothers, shadows, and friends to the Khal in ways that run deeper than the oath of the King's Guard to the King on the Iron Throne. The Khal and his Blood Riders commonly refer to each other as blood of my blood. Who would have thought they had such a complicated ruling system? For savages, they have quite the operational political system. I chuckled as I read. Unfortunately, the book didn't have anything useful their language so far, and the book had even less their migration patterns because these were pretty random. So to hunt them all down would take quite a while. I had to find an interpreter, someone that wasn't my father. I knew he knew how to speak their language, but the idea of asking him for help was repulsive of its own. So I continued reading. The Dothraki language is considered a rough, harsh language by Westerosi standards. They use descriptive names, for example, Reach Andali, meaning the land of the Andals, for Westeros, Cherokee, which literally means bleeding star, used to describe the red comet, or the term milkmen for the Cartine, pointing towards their paleness. Again, nothing but general, and I mean very general descriptions about their culture and language. As I continued reading the book, trying to find anything useful, Daenerys entered the library with a quite provocative dress. "It is late, come to bed with me." Daenerys was trying to seduce me. I mean, it's not bad. I'm her husband, but frankly, I didn't expect her to try and sleep with me after I bitch-slapped and imprisoned her sister. I mean, brother. She was wearing a Cartine dress that I had yet to figure out where or how she acquired it, but to be honest, I didn't care. The sight was quite nice to behold. "Now that you said it, I kind of feel like going to bed," I chuckled as I approached her, running my fingers through her hair down to her uncovered tit. "If I didn't know any better, I would say you are trying to seduce me." Daenerys smiled as she took a step forward, kissing me quite passionately, and as our lips separated, whispered, "I am my king." Well, I don't know what kind of evil and malevolent plot she's cooking. And I don't care. If these are her plots, she can sign me up for a couple of them. In the end, I will win, and we'll have a great time along the way. Daenerys was unexpectedly quite the passionate wife. Maybe part of her dragon blood, and more often than not, I found myself just getting used to this type of treatment. If I was going to hell, it would be for all the men I have killed, not for betting my wife. But I still had yet to figure out if she was trying to manipulate or not. She was genuinely sweet with me, but I had just incarcerated her brother. For me, it just didn't add up. Was I being too paranoid, seeing plots where there weren't any? Maybe. Perhaps she was just trying her best to make this marriage a successful one. And yet, I had something stopping me from just trusting her, besides the fact we were strangers a month ago. I should really just let this go, I thought, as I stood of my bed making sure to leave Daenerys sleeping soundly. She tried to make it work with Drogo. I have to at least give her a chance. She was never a manipulator anyway. Now Cersei, that bitch is crazy. With a sigh, I sneaked out of the room to meet with Illyrio and have him find me a Dothraki interpreter. My first step was learning their language. Then I would have to start conquering all the tribes. I had no issue with waiting and planning for the long run. The 7 kingdoms would be there waiting for me, weaker than ever, ripe for the taking. The moment I decided to go back, for now I would let those idiots play their games, because the moment I secured Essos would be the moment Westeros would be mine. "Hey Illyrio, I need another thing for you." I approached the Magister with a wide smile, which by some reason startled him. "Yes," Illyrio asked, cleaning his silk robe off the wine he had just spilled on himself. "I need you to find me a Dothraki interpreter. I want to learn their language," I informed him. I don't know why, but I feel it's not my place to ask. Illyrio chuckled as he accepted his mission. "Thanks, and you are absolutely right. It's not your place to ask." I smiled as I left the room. My destiny, the training grounds. It's been a while since I had a good workout. That doesn't involve me and my wife. Not that I complain, but I can't fuck my enemies to death. I mean, it's a possibility, but it's certainly not efficient. The training ground, the unsullied use in a close environment. Why, I have no idea, but I don't care. I start training hard, as minutes turn into hours, until I hear someone entering the training ground. Daenerys Targaryen herself descends from the comfy bed to look for me, as she rushes in to give the incredibly sweaty me a kiss. She was wearing a blue beautiful dress with gold regalia and a gold dragon crown. That was one of the gifts Illyrio gave her. "You have to stop waking up without waking me up," Daenerys smiled. "Sorry, but you look so adorable sleeping. I can't do that," I said as I booped her nose. Daenerys giggled as she eyed my ass for a second. "You are right. I married the best ass in the known world." I laughed. My ass takes the compliment. "So training?" Daenerys inquired. "Well, I have to occupy my free time." I scratched the back of my head as I turned my gaze to the door, feeling someone behind. While I wait for the Dothraki teacher, I signaled Daenerys to step behind me as I rushed towards the door. She immediately understood, and soon after I was kicking the door down, the other side was empty. No one but me was here. I'm going crazy. I could have sworn I felt someone staring at me a second ago. I really need to relax, or be really careful. I thought making a mental note to order my ravens to keep an eye on everyone. If I wasn't crazy and someone managed to sneak and disappear without being caught by me, well, it was bad news. After my little incident where I felt I was being watched, I decided to send some ravens to get some of my men over Essos. I would need them for my plans. I had also ordered my krakens to protect my islands and some ravens waiting for the war to start to deliver the message to my family. We weren't joining the Starks in their war. They insulted me first anyways. I had already done enough for them, and they still took a shit on my hard work. At least Ned did. If Robb couldn't beat his last remaining death flag, the phrase, and avoid his fate, then frankly, he was destined to die. My only duty was my promise to Sansa. I might not be able to marry her anymore, but I promised I would always keep her safe regardless of our relationship, and that I intend to keep. I already had a deal with Varys, and he was one to keep his word. But that brought me back. If the phrase betrayed the Starks again, Sansa would either die, or worse, end up marrying the old disgusting freak. So in the end, I might as well kill the Frys. No, why would I? The Starks need to fucking do something for themselves. So instead, I'll warn them. A raven here and there, and soon enough, their heads will roll. If that didn't ensure her safety, well, I would have to unfortunately get more involved. Either way, I would keep my promise. I also wanted to protect Arya. But not because I promised anyone. That one was more of a personal goal. I liked the little rascal. She was a free spirit that didn't deserve all the shit she got. And while she ended up being badass, there were other ways to do so without getting all those emotional scars. Noticing it was getting late, I started to walk back to my room, wondering how would this war end. Victory was never 100% secured. I was pretty confident I would win anyways. But what clouded my mind was, how many would die for me to get the crown on my head? Shaking the thoughts off my head, I entered the room, and what I saw surprised me. One of those good surprises. Daenerys was sitting on the bed with a very sexy dragon-inspired bedroom clothing. "I've been waiting for you," Daenerys said, crawling to me. "My king, she's getting good in the art of seduction, that much is sure." "Well, let's not wait anymore," I smiled as I eagerly dived into the bed. That night, I had a dream. A really vivid dream. It was so realistic, it made me feel it was real. I woke up inside a tent. Inside there were some Dothri chanting something. Hirizif Kab. Helizif Kob. Helizif Kob. What were they chanting? They were happy. I was happy. Why was I happy? I started to look around, trying to make sense of the situation, trying to understand what was going on, but a voice I had grown to recognize the last few weeks caught my attention. Daenerys was in my dream, covered in blood, but no hers. She was eating something, the heart of a horse. The fuck does this mean? And why does this dream make me happy? This shit makes little to no sense, I murmured in my dream, as a white fog covered everything, leaving me with nothing but questions. It took Ilio roughly a couple weeks to find a good Dothraki teacher willing to teach us. They were pretty rare. But once he found the teacher, I found the Doctor language was quite dull and limited in its uses, with a very short vocabulary, making the classes go smooth and fast. But even though there were still some concepts hard to grasp, but I suppose I was a bit distracted with the bizarre dream I had a couple of weeks ago, and was focusing mostly during these classes to make sense to the chant I heard. Lizzief Kyob. Those words echoed in my head like a butterfly in a cage. Daenerys, on the other hand, was doing a bit better than me, absorbing the language like she was born for it. She was quite excited to learn this with me. And I didn't see any problems with her joining my classes. In fact, it was mostly beneficial for me and her, so I happily paid the teacher extra to teach both us. Their culture is so fascinating. Daenerys was happy to expand her knowledge, and eager to learn new things. This frankly made her pretty adorable at times. "Can you translate something for me?" I asked the teacher, who turned his gaze to meet mine. "What do you want to translate?" the teacher inquired, accepting my request. If I knew how to write it, it would be easier to ask him what I want, but because I didn't know how to do it, I imitated the sound. "Lizzie Cub, I think that was it." Well, that can only mean bear cub, but why would you want me to translate that?" the teacher asked as I started to analyze the dream I had. My head was probably playing games with me, using the fact I've been sleeping with Daenerys every day and that I want to conquer the Dothraki to create that very specific dream. Or at least that would make sense if it wasn't for the fact I didn't know any Dothraki words before that dream, and thanks to my teacher, I confirmed those words meant something, so perhaps it was more than a simple dream. I couldn't help but look at my wife, my eyes slowly drifting her flat stomach. Was she pregnant? She wasn't drinking anything to stop or prevent a pregnancy, so it wouldn't surprise me if she announced that she was with a child anytime now. I don't know how it hasn't occurred to me that I might be a father soon, how that fact didn't dawn on me sooner. "We will soon," Daenerys smiled, noticing that I was looking at her belly. That would be great. I was lost on what to say, so I decided to say something positive, nod, and continue with the class. After the Dothraki class, I went on with my daily routine, training and stuff. I still didn't have the manpower to move, so all I could do was gather information. As I trained, a maid entered with a cup of water, but some time was off about her. Her aura, her general vibe was immensely more dangerous than any other maids working in the castle. "Who are you?" I inquired, as I dropped the cup of whatever she tried to poison me with. "What do you mean, Master Mormont?" the maid said with slight fear, but something inside me told me it was fake. "You either tell me who you are, and I will personally introduce you to my sword. And believe me, your relationship will be intimate." I smiled as I grabbed my sword. "A man is impressed. A man was right all along." All of a sudden, the voice of the so-called maid changed. "You are a faceless man," I muttered. "A man would be correct," the maid faceless man nodded. "A man wanted to see the Blessed One, and a man was right to do so. So who paid you enough money to kill yourself?" I inquired as I approached him. "'Cause you must know this is a suicide, you can't win against me. A man will not and have not taken any contracts against you. But others can use a man to hurt you otherwise," the faceless maid answered. He basically said he would not accept contracts with my name on the list, but others I care about, they would. Daenerys, Sansa, my family, or my future sons and daughters. "You are basically begging for your religion to go extinct," I growled. "A man would expect nothing else. Vato or Morgulis, Vato or Dohaeris. All men must die. All men must serve. A man is done here," the faceless man said as he removed his face, changing into another one. "He came to warn me others would target my loved ones. And what did he meant by Blessed One?" I thought as I watched him leave. After that ominous chat with the assassin, I decided to step up my security even more. I ordered 50 ravens to be on high alert around the castle, with Rhoda leading this. Yes, I named the raven that behaves like Yoda. Rhoda. Protect you." "I will. Yartsits." Rhoda took the assignment with great honor. "Thanks, I'm counting on you," I chuckled. After setting an ever tighter security, I went to talk to Elario about the accommodations for the 5,000 men that were arriving in a week. Once they arrived, I would start my campaign to take over the Dothraki. But I needed food, supplies, and other things before we left this place. One of the reasons the Actio would come quite handy, supplying us with all that and more for an affordable price. "Magister," I announced my presence as I entered his office. "King Mormont, what an unexpected surprise." Illyrio had learned to call me king. Was it out of fear or respect? I didn't really care. I started to explain to him in detail what I wanted: weapons, food, making a very detailed list of supplies he would have to provide before we left his castle. "Is that all?" Illyrio inquired, going over the list. "Yes, I hope you continue to be our supplier." I smiled, leaving an unspoken threat in the air. "Betray me and I will gut you." "Then I will get to it." Illyrio nodded, not daring to look me in the eyes. With that done, it was time to sleep. I had a wife to see and do married things with. After another passionate marital night with my wife, I fell asleep soundly in a matter of minutes, but again, instead of darkness, a quite vivid dream awaited me. Where am I now? This doesn't seem like the north, maybe beyond the wall. I thought as I walked aimlessly, trying to find something to make sense of what I was seeing. I don't know for how long I walked inside my dream, but it felt like hours, and all I could see and feel was cold, and a sense of dread filling me, fear. I haven't felt that in a while, not like this, and to feel it in a dream is idiotic. But when I dreamed of Daenerys that time, I was happy. And that fact made this even more serious. What if this was a dream? No, if this was vision warning me of the White Walkers. I was prepared for them. I've been hoarding dragon glass for a while, and I can pretty sure take on the Night King alone. So what is the weird vision trying to warn me about? My thoughts are halted when an undead dire wolf appears, looking at me. Is this a vision warning about Jon and how he will die? Not that I hate the guy, but why would that even affect me? I thought as I observed the wolf in detail, but there it stood doing nothing, but looking at me. There must be something relevant to me here. But what? I thought, but before I could think on that further, a loud noise behind me caught my attention. An army of undead White Walkers with a dragon that wasn't any of the ones I knew or had. It was massive, around the same size the dragon originally named Drogo would be, and on top of it, mounting it, there was someone smiling at me. I wanted to get a better look to see who was that person mounting the dragon. It wasn't the Night King, it was someone new. But before I could get my answer, something pulled me back to the real world. I'm up. What happened? I inquired mildly, annoyed that I didn't get to see who was mounting the dragon. You were sweating and shaking. I got scared. Daenerys breathed out. I'm okay, it was just a bad dream I had. I soothed her, as I hugged her. It didn't matter what I tried, the nightmare I had haunted me. Not only with fear, but doubts. Why did I dream that? What was the message? And who was that man riding that dragon? And how the hell did they find a dragon, to begin with? The image of that man, the dragon and the army, it was vivid in my head. Every time I closed my eyes or stopped thinking, I would, without even noticing, make my mind drift into what I saw. Perhaps I had been underestimating an army that only grows every battle. No, I didn't underestimate them. I have been using the knowledge I have of this universe to prepare to win on the long night. But all this time I had been neglecting something that might as well put my life on the line if I keep ignoring it. It has been said that something as small as the flutter of a butterfly's wing can ultimately cause a typhoon halfway around the world. Every action we take creates an echo. I was the flutter. By all I know, my sole existence fucked the world. I brought changes into this world, and one of them might be what I saw. I possibly created a chain of events that ultimately made my life harder. I need to prepare even harder for the long night. That feeling of dread and fear I felt weren't normal. I might not like to admit it, but I was scared. But that's good. Fear motivates us to grow stronger, to prepare ourselves better to face what is to come. That I will do. I might be afraid, but I will fight. Our men will arrive tomorrow, right? Daenerys inquired, sitting beside me. Yes, so far that the information I have, I nodded. For now, I had to put those dreams aside, whether they were a warning or not. I still needed the crown to have a chance to stop the long night from ever occurring. One more step to take, what is ours? Daenerys said, filled with determination. She had no doubts in her mind. We would take the crown. Aye, I chuckled. I will put that crown on your head before I burn the damn throne and crown and forge a new pair for us. Daenerys smiled, satisfied with my answer as she leaned in, kissing me. A throne worthy of their new king and queen, their rightful ones. Yes, I nodded, kissing her back. Let's go to our last class. Daenerys kissed me once again as she guided me to our teacher. I had continued with my classes, learning Dothraki every day more and more, and by this point I could understand fluently everything and hold conversations in their language. I had an accent, but it was to be expected. Daenerys was doing a lot better than me. In the accent department, though, I was ahead on the writing part. After the final class, our teacher left, leaving us with the reminder to study the little we still had to learn by ourselves. We finally know how to speak their language, Daenerys said, clearly proud of herself. Now it's just a question of waiting for our men. I nodded. Soon our conquest would start, and every victory would be a step closer to the Iron Throne. The first ones to come into the fold would be the Dothraki. I would start conquering the free cities, one by one, ensuring that the entirety of Essos is under my banner. Once all the free cities were under my banner, I would move to conquer the Second Sons. With that, Essos would be mine. But my plan to conquer didn't end there. Unlike my wife, I wanted all the sus, including Braavos, and I would have it, Braavos, their army, and the Iron Bank with all its gold. After that, well, whatever that was left of Westeros would be mine. Though there were a few things I wanted to do before leaving Essos. For one, I wanted to investigate the ruins of Valyria and see what can I salvage. And also try to find more dragon eggs there. Valyria, the Broken Empire, I muttered as I opened the book I got from Valyria in Illyrio's library. Valyria, also called Old Valyria, is a ruined city in Essos. It is a long-dead city of wonderment, and was once the capital of a great empire called the Valyrian Freehold. It was destroyed by a cataclysmic event known as the Doom of Valyria. It is the ancestral home of House Targaryen, House Celtigar, and House Valyrian. I only recognized House Targaryen. I continued reading about how House Targaryen was the smallest house of the three, and how the other two houses fucked their own empire in a struggle for power. But what interested me was that the book said that it is rumored that Valyria holds many treasures of its past glory there. That meant Valyrian blades and maybe more. And to be honest, I would be happy if I found the recipe. The trick in how to make Valyrian steel. I knew you needed a dragon, but besides that, the method was unknown. But all books agreed on one thing. You needed dragons and magic to make said metal. But besides going to Valyria and conquering Essos, there wasn't much I wanted to do in this part of the world. For now, it's late, come to bed with me. Daenerys' sleepy voice called me out, begging to be cuddled, and frankly, I was tired, so I didn't see any reasons to say no. I could always read more tomorrow. Fine, I shall warm you to oblivion, wife. I chuckled as I got inside the blankets, moving close to her. I am a dragon, you are the one that will get burned, Daenerys said teasingly. I don't mind that type of burn, I smirked at her, as we both started to chat and slowly but surely drifted into sleep. I woke up the next morning to my wife kissing me, with a smug look on her face, as if she had won something. What's up with that face? I yawned, stretching my body still under the comfy and warm blankets. You didn't wake up without me, Daenerys smiled adorably, biting her lower lip, as she added, It seems you are finally getting comfortable in bed with me. So that was her victory call that I overslept today. Frankly, I couldn't understand what part of that could possibly make me a better husband or make her happy. But if it makes her happy, who was I to judge? I see. Well, if me waking up with you makes you so happy, then it shall be done. Frankly, I didn't wake her up to let her sleep more. But if she wanted to wake up with me, then she was more than welcomed. Daenerys smiled as she got on top of me, resting her naked breast on my bare chest. I never understood why girls liked teddy bears until I got my own. Haha, that has to be the less sexy name I could possibly be called. I laughed. After all, there wasn't anything sexy about a stuffed animal. Mine is custom made, Daenerys whispered to my ear. It came with a few extra parts. I can't believe you were shy a few months ago. Frankly, you had me fooled. I laughed as I kissed her. Well, it's your fault, my king. You made me a queen, and a queen can't be shy, Daenerys kissed me, as she dragged her hand through my chest to my manhood. A queen knows what she wants, and gets it. Then claim your bounty, my queen. Claim this bear as your own once again. I kissed her. Our men could wait a couple of hours for us. Who was I to deny a dragon from her conquest? I was but a mere bear riding a dragon.